we're watching a Pyrite movie. Not a pirate movie, a Pyrite movie. Get it? 'Cause it's fool's gold?
Look at me, sure. I'm the captain. Captain James!
Ahoy there! Welcome to Rated Aargh. Thank you for joining us on another adventure as we chart our course through the realms of cinematic piracy. Today we're taking a look through our spyglass at our first pirate-adjacent movie, which was released on February 8th, 2008, Fool's Gold. My name is Ryan, and please join me in welcoming my co-captains Christian and Braxton. Fellas, how's it going?
Aye, aye, Captain.
I like the hat.
I'm going to wear this the whole time unless it falls off my head.
I like the hat. I've
felt
thought
like it
about
fit with
getting
this
a hat
movie.
a couple times.
On a yacht.
I wore a Hawaiian shirt with some sharks to try to fit in.
I like
'cause,
that shirt.
Tropical vibe.
I also feel like this was a shirt that McConaughey's character would wear.
He wore a lot of tie-dye.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or a lot of
if he was
tie-dye.
wearing a shirt.
If he was wearing a shirt. That is
Don't
one
see it
thing
on
about
the-
this movie is that like it's probably 70% of the movie he's shirtless. And I feel like they did that on purpose.
Yes. That does count in Pirate Bingo for unnecessarily shirtless guy. That's one of our things.
Okay. Okay. I like it.
One of the members of the crew is always never wears a shirt, but this time it's the main character.
That is true. That is true. Well, before we get too far into this, I would like to say if you're new to Rated Aargh, welcome. We're glad you're here. If you have not subscribed yet, make sure to do that. If you enjoy this episode, like the video, share it with a friend. And if you haven't yet, you haven't listened to our Treasure Island episode or the Pirates of the Caribbean Curse of the Black Pearl episode, or at this point, Sinbad, you're missing out because those were some freaking banger episodes and they have a lot more to do with pirates than this one does.
Yes.
And I'm just going to go ahead and throw it to Braxton. Braxton, do you recommend that people watch this movie before listening to this?
If you like cheesy rom-coms, yes. If you like National Treasure, yes. Although this is not on the same level. Otherwise, no. You do not need to watch this to enjoy this episode. Feel free to listen to
That's
this episode
probably true.
without watching the movie.
Yeah. I agree. You don't necessarily have to watch the movie. If you really like rom-coms, I would recommend you watch this. And it is a rom-com. I have a note here. This is not the first rom-com that Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson have been in because they are also in a movie that came out in 2003, which once again, just a great year for movies. And that is How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And I would say in terms
with
of
the
the
same
rom-com realm, this is not as much of a rom-com as that is. This is more of an
Right.
adventure movie with some romance in there.
Yeah.
Rom-com venture.
Right, yeah, it's a rom-com
Is that a
venture.
new? is that an existing thing? A rom-com venture? Because if it's not, we need to coin that phrase. No input. Okay, cool.
I like it.
Thanks. Just leave me hanging. So I do have some ratings here, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about this. So Rotten Tomatoes has this at an 11% critic score and a 48% audience score. And most of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes are like 48% for an audience score is way too high. Like it's really hated on. IMDb has it at a 5.7 out of 10, and Letterboxd has it at a 2.6 out of 5. What do you guys think about the ratings here on Fool's Gold? Because they're not as promising as I thought they would be.
Right. I knew this movie was kind of hated. I don't think it's that low. It's not awful. It only because it's extremely watchable. For however much weird or like annoying things there are in this movie or stupid writing, the movie's still very watchable all the way through. And to me, that puts it above a lot of random other crap that you can't say that about. You know,
I agree with that. Christian, how do you feel about the ratings?
Way too low. Even though I have my criticisms of the movie for sure, it was enjoyable, and I don't know why the average person wouldn't go into that and just enjoy it. It had all the parts. It had a Kevin Hart before he was the Kevin Hart we know today. It had
True.
Matthew McConaughey. It had adventure. It had beautiful cinematography and some really cool diving sequences. Like, I just don't understand how this was rated so low.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think it's severely underrated. In fact, you'll see later when I give my official rated Aargh rating of this, that I love this movie. Like it is probably one of my towards the top of my favorite movie list, which is funny because, I also like Kangaroo Jack, which is also hated on by critics. This is another one that is hated on by critics that I love. I've seen this before. I've seen it several times. I know Braxton said he has seen it several times. Christian, this was your first watch though, correct?
First watch, and I loved it.
Had you ever heard of this, Christian?
No.
The reason why I'm surprised you haven't is because this is an FX movie. This movie was on TV channels like FX all the time.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. The entire reason that I found this movie, because it was my recommendation.
I think I was going to put it on there anyway, but I appreciated you recommending it.
Yeah, so I recommended it, and the entire purpose was because we were like making the joke about pirate movies and pirate adjacent movies. And then I said, what about Pyrite movies? And I was like, surely there's a movie called Fool's Gold. And then I found it, and then I found out it was actually like very closely related to the movies we were looking for. And I was like, oh, what are the chances?
It's a full circle.
So I didn't know this existed. I knew that he was a treasure hunter in the other movie. Is it Sahara?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my God. We need to watch the movie Sahara on this podcast. I don't know how we're going to... There's Confederates on a submarine. That's close enough, right?
That has nothing to do with the pirates.
Confederates on a submarine?
I mean, this almost has nothing to do with pirates.
Look, all I'm saying is apples, pirates, oranges, Confederates on a submarine.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Sahara, Ryan?
I have not.
You would really like it. It's pretty dang good. It's better than Fool's Gold, I think, actually. Although not as funny.
You take that right. You take that back right now.
Sorry, I take it back.
No, I would probably appreciate it. I've heard it's better than Fool's Gold. In fact, that's in a lot of the reviews for this movie.
Really?
Is that, yeah, a lot of people were like, yeah, I watched this movie Sahara. It was way better than Fool's Gold.
Oh. Huh.
So there was a lot of that going on. So I don't know what year Sahara came out, but it was clearly before 2008. But yeah, there were also a lot of people that were like, oh, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is way better than Fool's Gold. Like, this movie is trash. And I don't agree with that. I mean, it's just fun. Like, if you enjoy watching a movie for fun, which is what a rom-com typically is for, you're going to sit down and you're going to enjoy watching this. Are you guys rom-com people? Because I love rom-coms. In fact, I think I told Braxton the other day, if I'm bored at my house, that's usually what I will watch is rom-coms.
Mm. If I'm bored at my house, I usually just watch a com. Not necessarily rom-com.
I don't know that I'm as big on comms as you are.
True.
Or Christian.
Yes.
I know Christian likes comms as well.
But I think that's my comfort thing. But I like them well enough. But I like ones more like this where it's got sort of a situational aspect to it, and that's part of it. If they like live in New York City and it's a rom-com, I'm like, I could care less. But if they're on an adventure, sure.
Okay. Note to movie producers. If you were thinking about writing a rom-com about people from New York City, don't even worry about it. Braxton will not.
It's because there's like 15 of those. You know what I mean? Like, do something.
Yeah. It is what it is. Christian, what about you? Are you a rom-com guy?
No.
See, yeah, I would have thought that as well for you.
Not by my lonely.
I've heard that expression said many times.
Not by my lonely.
I will not seek one out. I do not even seek out movies to watch on my own. So I'm not someone that like I'll watch in groups all the time, but I'm not someone that just like looks up a movie and watches it on my own.
I see what you're saying.
I typically always look into like unscripted content. I'm that nerd that has to learn something every time I watch something. But I really enjoyed this one, and I would be so open to that genre of movies coming back. And I hate that we've had to go through the COVID changes to movie theater numbers and the superhero era that we went through. And a lot of our movie genres are changing. But this is one that I could completely see coming back and being successful. Yeah. Especially if you've got big name actors and a lot of adventure in there.
Spend a little bit on it, not too much. Real light, just for fun.
We need a Matthew McConaughey return to the rom-com genre, because I didn't realize how many rom-coms he was in until I started looking up stuff for Fool's Gold. He was in like 50, dude.
Yeah, it weird.
Was so many.
Because I don't even think of him like as that. But statistically, that's the movie he's in the most.
Matthew McConaughey.
Well, I think he's one of those actors to where they have like a 2 or 3 year stint of insane rom-com success where they are in literally every single movie.
Well, I think they kind of become like the it person. And they're like, I'm not above taking a check for a good movie or a bad movie. I'm going to get it while the getting's good. And then later on, they get to actually act. Like in Interstellar.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds recently. McConaughey was one of the first ones.
Yeah.
But I remember that period where he was in like every single rom-com. And you made a really weird, well, not weird, but strange, if not in context, observation where like 30 seconds into the movie, you were like, wow, Matthew McConaughey looks healthy. And it just clicked into my mind. Everything else that I've seen Matthew McConaughey in, he's been like severely starved.
Yes.
Or obese.
Just done something insane for a role,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember which movie it was. You guys could probably tell me when I start explaining this. But one of them, it was not The Whale. He was not in The Whale. Jesus. There was some interview that he did a couple years ago where they were talking about this specific role that he was doing. And he was like, yeah, like for this other one, my kids hated me because all we ate was like almonds and celery and peanut butter. And he was like, for this one, like we got to have desserts and candy and all kinds of stuff, which I'm sure is a lot more fun for a family than it would be to, starve yourself for a role. But this one is like, I think, potentially the movie where he looks the best. Like he looks healthy, but you see him with his shirt off a lot. He's just really tan in this movie as well. He's got his long flowy locks going. Like this is probably the most handsome that Matthew McConaughey is in a movie, because there's some where he looks disgusting.
He's also played, yes. He's also played some variation of this character in several movies.
He sort of does, the way you cut your mustache and everything going right now.
Oh my God, yeah.
Is it Dallas Buyers Club, the one that you're
Dallas Buyers Club is the one where he got
That's the one where he actually
skinny. Like almost died,
sickly,
probably.
because that's how the guy looked.
Yeah. It's amazing like what some of the actors and actresses do. He did not get AIDS.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have.
Good grief. It's amazing what some of the actors and actresses do for parts, for the roles that they're trying to portray. You see some of these actors go through like insane body transformations to play like superheroes or something like that. And then you see the other end of the spectrum where, in Dallas Buyers Club, he's like as frail and skinny as a person could possibly be without dying. And it's just insane, like what some of these people will do to go through and like, get the role, become that person, that actor or that character that they're trying to play. This one, he basically just plays himself for the most part.
Version of himself is like my favorite that he plays, because he does it in like 5 other movies.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's fun. It's like a fun Matthew McConaughey. And like he looks fine. Which, I mean, you don't really see him with his shirt off too much in like Interstellar or some of the other rom-coms that he's done. But I think just like looking at him in this movie, which I'm sure the ladies loved. He was a heartthrob at this point in his career, and he just looks really nice. So, and he's very tan, like outrageously tan.
Him and Kate Hudson are like ridiculously tan in this movie.
Kate Hudson is pretty tan in this. Matthew McConaughey is
looks like a roast
couple
chicken.
shades. Like if they pulled out that like the tan scale on SpongeBob, he's like almost at sun bleached. He's like the one before sun bleached.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. She's maybe not quite so much. I will say they are freaking golden on the poster or the cover of this movie. They colored them in Photoshop and stuff, and they legitimately look gold.
You fool.
You fool.
They're gold. It's their gold. It's fool's gold.
Yeah, it's also funny that like Christian looked this up because it's a Pyrite movie. He was trying to find a Pyrite movie.
Only does Fawn supply his joke.
Yeah. And so it's not called Fool's Gold because they got there and there's like, this treasure's fake. It's like, no, this treasure is so hard to get to that you'd be a fool to try to even go after it.
My favorite part at the end was when McConaughey looked at the camera and was like, thank God this isn't Fool's Gold. And then he morbed all over those guys. That was my favorite part.
Yeah.
They did not say the words Fool's Gold.
They did not, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
This movie was also released in February, which was supposed to be a Valentine's flick. I would have thought it would have been released in the middle of the summer, but I guess they were going for more of a rom-com vibe.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious if maybe releasing it in February, trying to go for that, Valentine's Day kind of vibe, if that kind of cost them, because this movie had a budget of $70 million. And the worldwide box office, it brought in 111. So it was profitable. But you just kind of wonder, like, would it have been more successful if it was released at a different time? Maybe not.
And
maybe
not marketed directly as a
just
rom-com, as a more broad movie, which it is. Maybe it would have been more successful.
It definitely... I think it probably would have been.
I do agree that it does feel very much like an inferior National Treasure.
So I have a review.
It's very close in vibe.
Hear me out. I have a review that is let me pull it up real quick. I have a review from Letterboxd. This is a 4-star review from Grace Thom from 2021, and the Letterboxd review is National Treasure: just add water.
That's a good review title.
How do you feel about that?
It's pretty dang close.
I saw it and was like, that's accurate.
Yeah. Imagine if Turtletop directed this.
It'd probably be better.
I feel like it might be better. I don't know.
I mean, it is Turtletop. He just freaking makes magic happen.
He makes the turtles tob. Whatever that means.
Whatever that means. So essentially the critics' consensus on this is from Rotten Tomatoes. This is what the critics said about Fool's Gold. They said, with little chemistry among the performers, humorless gags, and a predictable storyline, Fool's Gold fails on every level. And they have a synopsis on Rotten Tomatoes, which I would like to see you guys what you think about this, because I thought it was like pretty inaccurate.
Maybe this is the other one I was thinking of. We need to look at what like either the tagline is or what it's described as on a streaming service, and see if that's anywhere.
It wasn't
accurate.
like overly vague, but this is a synopsis from Rotten Tomatoes that let me read it and then we'll talk about it, because it's pretty bad. The synopsis from Rotten Tomatoes is: treasure hunter Ben Finnegan, played by Matthew McConaughey, has sunk his marriage to Tess, played by Kate Hudson, and his trusty boat in his obsessive quest to find legendary Queen's Dowry. When he finds a vital clue that may finally pinpoint the treasure's whereabouts, he drags Tess and her boss, billionaire Nigel Honeycutt, along on the hunt. But Finn is not the only one interested in the gold. His former mentor-turned-enemy, Mo Fitch, who's played by Ray Winstone, will stop at nothing to beat him to it.
That sounds like they only watched half the movie.
Exactly.
They don't mention the actual villain, which is Kevin Hart as a rapper.
Yeah, Big Bunny.
I need to mention this. So I looked for it, and I found out that Matthew McConaughey was also in another movie called Gold, where he plays a prospector out to strike gold who gets a rare chance at his goal when he goes on an incredible trip to the Indonesian jungle with a gung-ho geologist.
It's weird that he was in a movie. There's fool's gold, and then there's real gold.
And then there's Sahara.
Yeah. And then there's
Submarine of Confederate soldiers gold.
He's
I
in a
think
lot
there
of
is gold
movies
in that movie.
He's in a lot of movies with one word titles.
Interstellar, Gold,
Bud.
Ghosts of Girlfriends Past. Oh wait,
Yeah, because that's one word. I was interested. Nigel Honeycutt is worth $700 million. Last I checked, that does not make him a billionaire. And then really Mo Fitch is only brought in. He's not actually trying to beat Finn and Tess to the treasure. He's only brought in because Big Bunny is like, we need the person who can find this faster than these other guys.
yeah, he's already found
And
like
so
a
they
crap
go-
ton
they
of
go get
treasure
him.
too. Like he's an established. Well, he's basically Mel Fisher.
He
The
is
Mo
based
Fitch
on Mel
character,
Fisher.
right?
Yes.
Can you explain, I guess, Christian, about the Queen's Dowry and what's real, what's not quite so real?
So I think they loosely based that off of Mel Fisher's discovery of the Atocha. And I say that because they also mention the Florida Keys. And Mel Fisher is the one that made the big discovery down in the Florida Keys. And he passed away long before they started on this movie. So I think that was kind of an ode to Mel Fisher. He's kind of the face of treasure hunting, which is more kind of scientifically described as undersea or aquatic salvage. And he kind of pioneered a lot of that stuff. And so the Atocha that he found was a 1622 ship. And there was also a 1715 treasure fleet that went down in Florida. I don't know if this was based off of that. I know they mentioned the year 1715.
1715 is when it's based on. That's the year that the Queen's Dowry went down.
So all that history really does line up. Like in Portobello, Panama, Veracruz, essentially what would happen is that all these cultures like the Inca, the Mexica or the Aztec in Mexico would have all this silver and gold, and it would essentially be pillaged and mined by Spanish conquistadors. These things would be loaded up in port. The way that they would often ship them is what's called in either cobs or pieces of eight. Pieces of eight were not generally spent outside of ports. It was more of a way to ship
review
it.
Movies.
Yeah.
It's more of a thing for a parent to say.
Ship it. And so these ships were loaded with stuff like that. But the really bad thing at the time was that our navigational skills were not great. We never knew when storms were going to strike.
Yeah, I don't think they quite understood like hurricane season or the statisticness, right, of is a storm coming, is it not?
And so I've heard that from Mel Fisher's company, their estimate that 10% of all wealth that was shipped out of North, Central, and South America back to Spain. Sometimes it would be brought back to Havana and then sent back to Spain. About 10% of that is unaccounted for. Most of it's in the bottom on shipwrecks. They would absolutely load up certain ships, which is how a ship goes down with like over $1 billion worth of culture valuables. And they're huge. One of the things that was kind of on Fisher's side when he made his discovery is that he kind of pioneered a lot of the stuff and started the industry long before the legal disadvantages. And so now it's very difficult to access anything like that, and especially in Florida. But
even if you do find it, who owns what, who essentially, right?
There can be, a dozen or more countries that may try to claim something based on who insured the ship, where the ship was coming from, where it was headed. Then you've got the stuff that, if it's found in Mexico, then you have to figure out the year. Was it a ship that went down when Mexico was still property of, royalists in Spain? In that case, in Spain will try to get involved. If it's gold from Peru, then Peru will try to get involved. And so there's this huge kind of legal mess that follows a lot of private salvage. But I will say that this movie, especially some of the diving sequences involved, I know that they had really good consultants, probably some people that actually worked on Mel Fisher's own salvage operation in South Florida, because this to me was the most accurate with the little intricacies of salvage and how kind of a lot of times it's kind of on a shoestring budget, and you're trying to get this thing done and then waiting for that next injection of money. And this felt like you always had that tense pressure to it. It reminded me a lot kind of Uncut Gems, how he was always chasing money to repay something. And that's really what the industry is like.
And that's what starts the conflict in this as well is, they're looking for, hypothetically, billions of dollars. But in order to get that, he has no money. So he has to beg for these suspicious investors to help him, pay for gasoline for his air pump on his boat.
Big Bunny.
But yeah.
So this is, I guess, a good place to go ahead and take a look at our first clip. Finn has gotten in trouble with Big Bunny and his crew, and essentially owes them. I think he said he knew down to like the cent, like to the penny, how much he owed him, and it was like $60-something thousand, I think. And so at that point, he's taking him to the plate, and he's like, because they found a plate in the movie they believed was from the Queen's dowry after his boat sunk at the beginning of the movie. And so he takes Big Bunny this plate. Big Bunny knows what it is, clearly. And so in order to take the treasure himself and not let Finn get to it, he is going to have him killed because he owes him money. And so this is essentially... it's probably one of the coolest shots underwater. There's several really cool underwater shots of them diving later too. But this is like kind of the first time that you see some of the underwater stuff. So let's take a look at this clip. I also love when like it's supposed to be through his perspective underwater and he doesn't have a mask on, that it's blurry as all get out.
This is just great.
I remember the first time I watched this scene specifically like really stuck out to me.
Yeah. Well, it works. It's funny. It works for him as a character. This might be my most hated thing in the movie. Like, I hate that it works, but yes,
the score here is great too.
He acts like he doesn't even expect it to work himself, which,
yeah,
makes it a little better.
The score there is great too. You get kind of almost like a Mission Impossible kind of vibe from the score. Just a little bit. Nothing too crazy, but you get kind of like a little bit of that. It is important to note, you mentioned like this is essentially supposed to be set like off the Florida Keys for the most part. But it was originally supposed to be filmed in the Bahamas. But when they wanted to start filming was like in the middle of hurricane season. So they end up filming like basically all of this
because that's how the boat went down.
Australia, and specifically off of Queensland, Australia. And it was interesting. I think almost all of the underwater shots, especially that one at the beginning, is in like this big tank that they built, and they had like someone go in and do some set design to make it look like a reef kind of situation underwater. But I thought that was interesting that it looks perfect because it basically is. They basically created it to look as perfect as possible.
It looks good.
I mean,
I'm sure all the stuff in the cave at the end was in a tank, and it looks real as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. That comedic gag, though, of him like picking up the anchor, and like throwing it, and then like bunny hopping, his feet are all tied together. Dude, hilarious. That I remember the first time I watched it, that like really stuck with me. And when it popped up on screen, I was like, it was like a nostalgic throwback to the first time I watched that, which was really cool.
I think is my favorite part in the movie in here.
Yes.
Okay, can we look at that?
So at this point, like a big, point in the movie is that Matthew McConaughey's character Finn and Kate Hudson's character Tess were married, and they get a divorce, like pretty much right off the jump.
Yeah, this is from the beginning.
The rest of it is basically like him trying to prove himself and get her back and all that. So this is like essentially right after the whole divorce thing, and he's talking to her. This clip is fantastic. I know you said it's your favorite point in the movie. So let's take a look at that clip.
Where are you gonna get the tuition money? Anyway.
That's the best part. By selling the boat. By
Okay.
selling my boat, which belongs to me, which
So,
used to belong to
he-
us, but
he
you
sank the boat
divorced, so now
just
it
before
belongs
Sank
to
the
me.
this.
I'm gonna fix it up, I'm gonna sell it, and I'm going to... What?
You also don't even hear him say it.
What is?
This is hard to say. So
He whispers it in her ear.
I'm gonna whisper it to you.
And then he does that.
So good.
And this is what I
His
love.
physical
She
comedy
walks
in this
away.
is pretty good too.
He
Act
says,
like this is my fault.
and she turns around, picks up
Can I
old man's
borrow this?
cane.
Not gonna hit me.
Whack. That is a really good clip in the movie.
You're not
And
going to
really,
hit me. Whack.
It really describes like their relationship throughout the movie as well. It's good, and it is interesting. So this is a fun fact that I have. You see it sort of when he goes back down to the boat to try to retrieve some stuff towards the beginning. But the boat that he sinks at the beginning, that was referenced in that clip that she was going to sell, its name is the Booty Call.
I had never noticed that that was the name of the boat before.
It's a
And
great
I've seen
name
this
for
probably a
boat.
bunch of times.
It's a great name for a boat because
Gosh.
they're searching for treasure, which, Braxton loves to call booty.
What, well, would that count in Pirate Bingo? They don't say the word booty, but the word booty appears on screen in context
I would say that counts.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me mark that.
Sure.
The arbiter has declared that counts. It counts. Anyone who's doing bingo.
Yeah. If you're doing pirate bingo, write that down. Mark that square off.
Yes.
I would say that counts. Booty Call, just a great name for a ship, or a boat. If that were my boat, that would be a nice name for it. I don't know who
Booty.
came up with that, but whoever decided that the boat should be called the Booty Call, big brain.
Probably
Big
Finn.
brain. Well, I'm sure it was the writers. Come on, man. It was probably Finn. Okay, so that kind of leads us to the next clip that I have in mind. Let's watch, because it kind of sets up the other clip that we'll watch after this. Because the next clip really is a good representation of their relationship, even maybe more than this last one is. Because, Matthew's character, Finn, in this is kind of a jerk. And he's not intentionally trying to be that way. He's just, very set in his ways and, is not going to let anybody tell him what to do, basically, is what it seems like. And this is potentially one of the funniest and most outrageous scenes out of anything that happens in this whole movie. And there's a lot of outrageous things that happen. But this one specifically, I feel like, is one of the more outrageous clips that we get. They did that on purpose. They did several things in this movie on purpose, especially with Gemma.
Oh yeah, I forgot. He's eating a sandwich, or was it a banana?
Eating a banana
that he found
in a cooler on this boat that he just walked out and took.
But we never gonna catch him.
I don't know what in the world this guy's accent is. Oh, yeah.
I don't either. No clue. This is so ridiculous. Wham.
And he lands
And
back in the
she's just
boat.
like, she's just like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever.
Wouldn't it have been way better to just land in the ocean so you don't like bang your head?
Oh shit.
I mean, I don't know that he had too much say in that once he's in the air.
True. Yeah, he was in the air.
But then they almost run him over.
She says, "Oh my God, you killed him."
Oh my God, you killed him.
Okay, speaking of
essentially-
accents,
Wait, go ahead.
there's something interesting about this movie, which it has tons of people doing, in my opinion, not that great of accents. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting that because of casting, Donald Sutherland, a Canadian actor, does a posh British accent. The guy who plays the sidekick is a Scottish actor who does a Ukrainian accent. And
I don't
guy who-
understand why there was a Ukrainian guy.
he
there
should
to
just
begin
played a
with.
Scottish guy.
He could have just played a
guy.
English guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
He didn't have to have a goofy accent.
The craziest one, because it's weird, it goes all over the place, is Ray Winstone is a British guy who talks like this. He has sort of a Cockney, and he's playing a Floridian man. He's playing the Florida man.
Like a Southern man.
And
Like
sometimes
this.
it sounds accurate, and sometimes it's like, I don't even know where that's coming from.
Yeah, there were a couple times where I thought it was sort of Southern. There were a couple times I thought it was sort of Cajun. There was
It
a couple
sounded sort of
times that
Cajun.
It's not. It's none of the above. He's just
The only person who's using a real
outlandish.
accent is Matthew McConaughey. He does just talk like that.
yeah.
It's an East Texan
Yeah.
accent.
I mean, the man's not far. He's from not far from us. So, but that is an interesting scene. It's potentially one of the most ridiculous scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
With that whole jump sequence, they then run him over, and that's how he gets. That's his ticket onto the boat, essentially, to go and try to get funding. So let's take a look at this next clip because it kind of plays into that. And this clip is kind of the first time that. Well, it is the first time that Tess sees Finn on the boat in any capacity somehow. This boat's not very big, keep in mind. I don't understand how he gets saved, brought on board, and somehow he makes it all the way to dinner without her even knowing. That seems wild to me. But this is like the first time that they meet up. And let's take a look at it, and then we can talk about it a little bit.
Not an investment per se, because you probably won't see a dime. But it's a chance to pull out a piece of living history from the sand with your own two hands.
It's interesting. She's planning to go to this dinner and propose that he fund a dive
Hey, babe!
and a search for this treasure.
What are you doing here?
Have a good dinner! See you, everybody!
I take it you've met.
I take it you've met.
What's funny also is it's always him that like triggers her because she panicked, but she set the plate down. But it wasn't until he tried to be like, "Hey, what's up?" that she's like, "Screw this! I hate this guy."
He's like, to the Aurelia. And then she's like, ah! And then he's like, hey, babe, what you doing here? And then it's like,
Makes her freak out.
okay,
even
I got to
more.
get out of here. I'm going to throw plates at these people that pay me. Like, I can't believe. And I can't believe that she would just like throw it and they would be okay. Like that.
There's
like,
a lot
there's
of that in this
no-
movie of people behaving
world-
insanely and other people being like,
Okay, cool. Like, in what world does an owner, like a almost billionaire, that's an owner of a giant yacht, how is he okay with his one of his employees throwing and breaking plates of food all over them? Like, how is that okay?
Yeah.
Because the reaction isn't, oh, what is going on? Like, she needs
It's
to be fired.
screaming and throwing.
But no, it's from Nigel. It's just, I take it you've met.
Right, yeah. He says it, which I'm fine with. If someone sacrifices like a real life moment to make a comedy thing, okay, sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, in between the scene where, she hits him with the cane and this scene, she has taken the drawing that he gave her of the plate and like matched it to a picture of a plate that was on the ship at the time that it wrecked. And she is now taking it upon herself to get the funding from Nigel herself. And she's talking, like coaching herself through it so she can go in and like give them food and sit down and, give this whole spiel on why that he should fund this search for a treasure. And then only to be beaten by Finn once again, who she had just warned the people that in the kitchen about like moments before. And, he just has found a way to get out there and get himself onto the ship or onto their boat and then, present himself as a guy that should be funded, even though he's in debt and has no money and can't do anything correctly. It seems like
somehow
somehow he's just
out
charming.
And gets it done. Yeah,
Just
with his charm alone.
In his tie-dye shirt on a little like raft with a motor. So this clip is actually somewhat later in the movie, and I kind of want to watch it now because I have some stuff specifically about the boat that they're on. So let's take a look. It's called. It's not Booty Call. It is Precious Gem, which is Nigel's boat.
God. Daddy, you named the boat after me and didn't even know it.
I didn't even know it.
I didn't.
His reactions are funny.
Dude, so good.
You were running away to sea, only you wanted to bring me along. So you unconsciously named the boat after me. That is so beautiful.
And they look at each other like, oh, she's so stupid.
Her speech here of like explaining what's obvious is like what happened when we watched like Argyle and movies like that I hate.
But it wasn't unconscious. I gave it a lot of thought.
No, you did it unconsciously.
And then I did it unconsciously.
Okay,
I love at the
funny.
end that Nigel's just like, okay, there's no winning in this, so I'm just gonna say I did it unconsciously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, it's such a good. I don't know. I think it's funny, and I don't necessarily think that her being dumb and thinking that he did it unconsciously is funny. I think Nigel's reactions to it.
Yeah, that's what makes it good. Yeah,
it's hilarious.
I will say it does bring up a thing that I think would improve the movie, and I think I might have said this when we watched it, but I like the character of Tess and I like the character of Finn, but I think there's too many other side characters. And I think the movie would have benefited from either cutting them or shortening their roles in order to get more time for character development between Tess and Finn, separately and together. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I feel like maybe that would
I can see that.
help it along, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it kind of drags in the middle. I really like the beginning, and I really love the end, but then the middle is like, so we're on the yacht with the billionaire and his daughter having a conversation.
Yeah, well, and like Finn sneaks off and goes and tries to attack Big Bunny.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Like that whole sequence.
Why does
is
he
kind
go
of
back?
dumb.
Why
I
does
didn't
he
quite
go back?
understand that because they think he's dead.
Why does he go back?
Because he goes back with the sword, and
do they have something?
The plate, right?
I don't think he went back for the plate though. I didn't quite understand why he went back. They found a sword, which we'll take a look at in a clip in just a minute. But they found a sword. He then goes back and basically tells Big Bunny, "Hey, I'm alive. We're really close to finding the treasure now. I'll pay you back."
Yeah, what?
Why? Like what reason?
Does he only do that to reintroduce conflict back into the story?
I guess, man, because literally he goes and he's like, "I'll pay you back, and you can have and he's like, I want a percentage of it," and he's like 10%. Nope. And then it goes like all the way up, and he's like, "Yeah, how about I'll let you live. And I was like, why did he even go back at all? Like, I can understand why people don't like this movie because that part really didn't make any sense. And I've seen this multiple times.
Never mind, I don't know. I almost had a reason, but then that didn't make sense either.
I don't know. Christian, do you have any inclination as to why that whole sequence happens?
No, I would agree too that the middle is just all vibes.
Yeah.
And it's just held. The glue is just like the cutaway shots of the beautiful water and these.
That's a big part of it, honestly. And the music,
scenes.
The needle drops, and the score, I really like for this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both of those are great. And I mean, we've gotten a little bit of the score here and there. The opening sequence, though,
okay, because it
with the
starts
titles,
off.
I almost brought a clip of that because the score there just freaking rocks.
It's worth listening to. It's interesting because I don't know of any other movie that's done this, but I love stuff like this, where it's the same melody, but at the beginning, it's played like Pirates of the Caribbean style, full orchestra.
Yeah.
And it sounds, 17th century. Mm-hmm. And then it immediately goes to the same melody when the opening titles start, but it's like modern.
Vibe.
Yeah, and it's sort of light, islandy, steel drums and bass and stuff. And it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. The score for this is good, and they do a really good mix, I think, of like, just like an original orchestral score for the movie, and then they also have like some really banger songs that they mix in there too. That's just like it's just a good mix. Like it's not all one or all the other because there's a lot of movies, especially rom-coms, that it's basically all just random songs. Like there's almost no score otherwise. And
Kiss
those
me
are kind of
down by the bearded barley.
Yeah, those are hit and miss for me on whether or not I actually like them. But I feel like this one has a really good mix for the score. Like it's just real solid. I don't even remember who scored it. You want to look that up real quick?
Yeah, I can.
So what I did have before, while Braxton's looking that up, so the Precious Gem is a real boat, and it was made in New Zealand. It's a 135-foot sovereign yacht. It was built in New Zealand, and its actual name is Carrie Lee, which I don't know if that's named after somebody or what, but it charters for like $70,000 a week, and you can have up to 12 people on board.
There we go. It's some movies that, like, for a term like Fool's Gold, it messes up Google search. You have to put either the year or movie, otherwise it's
2008.
confused. George Fenton. Let me see what else he did. Nothing really we would know of. He did that movie Memphis Belle. That was about like the B-52 bomber.
I've never seen that.
You've Got Mail, which is another rom-com. He did that movie Valiant, where the pigeon is in the war. Do you remember that movie?
I don't. It's called what? Valiant?
Valiant. It's a Disney movie that Disney bought from somewhere else, and it's a really crappy movie.
I've probably... What? Pigeon in the war? Like, that's just one tiny character, though, isn't it? That's not the whole point of the movie, is it?
It's a pigeon. He's like a... Why are we talking about Valiant right now?
You just brought it up.
He's a messenger pigeon. Why do I even remember this? Who wants to be like a hero. It's sort of like B-movie. He wants to be like a hero, one of the big tough guys, but he's just a messenger pigeon.
Okay.
He did Groundhog Day.
What exactly is a big tough guy in terms of birds in war?
I don't know. An eagle.
An eagle.
So yeah, he's done stuff, but nothing that famous. No, he did The Bounty Hunter, which is another rom-com that I really love.
Okay, I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's Gerard Butler and Jennifer Aniston. And it's kind of like this, where it's not really good, but it's really
good.
fun to watch.
But it's good, yeah. So I do have one more clip that I'd like to watch before we set Christian up here to kind of go over some historical accuracy. And essentially, this is one of the crazier moments in the movie.
This is wild.
He should have died, right? I mean, in reality, he dies in this. I would think.
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe I'm completely wrong.
If this happens, yeah.
Okay, you're on. Go, 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 go.
Oh, this is so good.
Hi! Hi! I'm Gemma.
How did they convince her to play this character?
I don't know. I don't think she's ever been in many other movies.
Oh my god, there's Finn! Gemma!
Everyone.
Thing that she wasn't supposed to point out.
Yeah.
Like she's supposed to be a distraction.
And the setup is insane because it's an accident that they even blow him up.
Who the hell set off that charge? There's
Well,
a man down there.
sorta. The second one, not so much.
Anybody's gonna kill that boy, it's gonna be me.
Okay.
But see, I don't think Mo would have pushed the button.
He wasn't planning to. He throws the sword. You get this shot. And then he lands on the opposite boat. Why did they do a crotch shot? Because not only is it there, I cut the rest of it out because right after that, it cuts right back to her with the sword like wobbling.
Yeah, it's weird.
Why did they do that?
Well, it's also because like I feel like it'd make. I don't know. Would it make more sense if anything was changed? I don't know. But he doesn't just go, oh, and the sword falls out of his hands. As he's flying up there, he goes,
yeah,
slings it.
How do you have any sort of bearings at that point
where
to make
up and
the
down
heads-up
is?
play to throw it onto the correct boat?
He's just that
how do you
good.
know that you're landing on one boat and then, crazy. Doesn't make much sense at all. The sword there is really cool. So I'm going to throw it over to Christian, and you got some historical facts here for us and how accurate this whole thing is.
Well, some of it was incredibly accurate, other parts not so. But it's understandable. You want to kind of dumb things down for a movie. But the one thing I will add that you might find pretty interesting is that most artifacts that you'll find in a shallow water shipwreck like that, especially a highly oxygenated environment, like a nice reef system, it's going to be in what's called a concretion. It's going to be like a concrete swallowed. It's going to look like coral itself. And so sometimes it's almost indistinguishable from the coral. There's special devices you go down and you kind of have to saw stuff out of coral sometimes, figure out what it is. Sometimes they've got a makeshift x-ray machine on the boat. Sometimes they have to use like some sort of facility on land and figure out what it is. Generally, you pull up what's called concretions, and we've all seen a concreted cannon. That was just an old rusty sword. And my one thing I'll say about that is that a sword would never look like that. There would be all kinds of stuff growing on it, and it might be unrecognizable. It might just look like a big rock.
It has like a whole other layer on top, right?
Yeah, you may not even recognize the shape of a sword until you do x-ray it. You also don't want to bring it out of the water unless you have plans to stick it right back in. A lot of times you've got tubs and stuff on the top. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain kind of liquid that they use to break down those layers that have built up. But other than that, it's really cool. I think the way that they talk about shipwrecks is dumbing it down, and a lot of stuff actually did make sense. A lot of ships did run aground in reef systems that were 20 to 30 feet deep. And so the majority of ships that do wreck by accidentally going aground.
They just pulled into the wrong spot, or the tide came in or out, and that was it.
Is that pretty accurate what they're doing there with like it all laid out in a grid and stuff, and they've got charges in each grid and all that? Is that pretty accurate to like how you'd actually, go about trying to recover some artifacts and stuff? Yeah,
the one thing I'll add is that what they should have been doing the entire time. And this technology was available back then. Like the technology, the turnover is so fast. Like every 5 years, there's something new out that just makes it that much easier. But in reality, what they would have wanted to be doing and what they probably would have spent months doing is magnetometry searches. And so that's where you haul a giant towfish behind the boat, and it's essentially just a big metal detector. And depending on how strong it is, you have to actually bring that. Typically, you set it like 10 to 15 feet above the bottom of the reef, and you try to keep the boat at a speed to where that towfish following behind stays at that level. So you can't slow down and let it sink. You can't go too fast and pull it up to the top. So you've got to get it down there, and it hooks up to various software and various computers, and it'll register hits. It'll tell you when it gets metal readings, what side, and then a lot of that stuff will transfer that to a grid. And so in underwater archaeology and private salvage, it's a practice called mowing the lawn, where if you think there's a shipwreck somewhere, if you think that it's in the bay, wherever, after you've done all your research and homework at the library, you go in a grid system. You design a square that we're going to look at today, and then you design a square that we're going to look at tomorrow. And so this stuff can take months until you find something actually worth diving on. And so I guess maybe because that was a process that we didn't know about, like I said, treasure hunting oftentimes is like really on a shoestring. They may not have had funding for that or even in the budget for that. I think that's the most useful tool to finding shipwrecks. These shipwrecks can be blown absolutely anywhere by hurricanes, including like miles inland. That's the one thing that I didn't really see. And so the grid system would be used when you've located something and you are retrieving artifacts and you actually want to get some sort of archaeological benefit from that. And there's probably some sort of study, some sort of documentation going on where you list an artifact, what's called in situ, which can help solve an underwater crime scene of sorts, which is where you list like depth, certain conditions where you found the artifact, what it was, what the soil level was. And from that, someone can look at all this on paper and be like, okay, I know exactly what happened. We can tell exactly what happened to the ship, the way it was oriented. And there's just a lot of science that goes into that. It's not all going down, bringing stuff up. In reality, if it was like a funded academic archaeological project, which not all are, they would be going down, documenting all this stuff. Sometimes you've got to require additional documentation for the local government. I know like Dominican Republic has a system in place to where they are really concerned about what they call their cultural heritage and the preservation of their shipwrecks. There are so many shipwrecks around the Dominican Republic, around Cuba, around Haiti, that it's really that easy. If you own a magnetometer and a boat and you can dive and you've got a lot of time, like you are pretty much guaranteed with enough time to find some sort of wreck site. But this didn't go into all the legal loopholes and issues. Right. It just kind of really kept it to the adventure. It was accurate. A lot of the more shallow diving, they obviously had some dive consultants. Some of it made sense. Like in the beginning, they're using an air compressor, pumping air down to them. That's what you use in shallow dives when you're going to be down for hours looking for something or studying something, rather than a short, maybe hour-long dive and coming right back up. You pump down compressed air down to them. That made sense.
I'm not sure that they were actually pumping compressed air down in there with that generator at the beginning. I think the generator was running like a vacuum system that they were.
Oh yeah,
was that what it does?
Yeah, I think so.
I think they're like holding the gun thing and sucking up sand. I think it's running through a filter, and they're trying to collect things. Big. But the generator's running that, and that's what eventually falls in it falls in the water, like catches everything on fire.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense too, because I knew that they were hooked up. I just remember the scene where they were hooked up with hoses.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if they had an external tank or anything. But that makes a lot of sense. That's one way that you find stuff. You just vacuum a ton of sand, and then someone on the deck of the boat goes through it. One thing that's actually kind of cool that I learned because I am actually pretty well connected to some of the people that currently work Mel Fisher sites and Mel Fisher adjacent sites. Some of the guys that are currently permitted there, what they do is they'll take a long PVC pipe and they'll give it a 90-degree angle. They'll run it out of the boat exhaust straight down, and then they'll run the boat engine like full power and blow essentially a huge hole in the bottom of the sand, and then send divers in with vacuum so they can blow out 10 feet of sand and divers can just jump in. But you've got to have a lot of, I think Matthew McConaughey does a really good job. And I know Netflix kind of tapped into this with Outer Banks of protagonist being like the perfect idealized treasure hunter, to where they're very smart and cunning, but there's also a lot of like, I keep going back to Uncut Gems, where he's like always owing somebody, wondering where there's going to be money from.
He's never quite fully telling the truth.
Yeah, and it's Jack Sparrow too. It's the
always
Jack
a little bit of
Sparrow
spin.
Character.
Always people after him.
Yeah.
And so that's it. And that plays up the adventure of this, because it's not just the location and the excitement of it that's the adventure. It's because there's a little bit of danger involved too. And that movie captured this really well, even if it was kind of really weird at times.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. How accurate is the blowhole thing that all the treasure was kind of buried in? Like, if someone was trying to hide something, like, is that something that they might actually do? Is like hide it in underwater in some sort of, natural landmark that you'd only be able to access like once or twice a year?
Yes and no. So I'll start off with no, because I think I discussed this in the first episode.
Yeah, that nobody hid anything.
That no one really hid anything. It didn't make sense to hide. It's also an incredible engineering feat to get back into some of those places.
Well, like this one wasn't even necessarily like we have all this treasure, let's hide it. It was like we ran aground. There's nowhere for us to go. Let's hide this and we can come back.
I will say,
later.
I think of all the movies
never happens
that we're probably going to watch with this, it seems like it has the most natural explanation of why that possibly could happen.
Yeah.
But I think this is maybe like the only circumstance where it would ever make sense to hide something with the goal of coming back and getting it later. Because the key part of this is the guy, it says that when he's picked up by the tobacco ship or whatever, that he dies of tuberculosis like a month later. So he never gets to go back or talk to the crown and explain the situation.
Well, he also
dies.
lied to those people. Like, they never would have had any idea that he was with the ship, the Aurelia, or any of that.
Yeah, it's not something that's that far-fetched of an idea, because if humans can think it up, it's something that has probably already happened.
Right.
Many times. I will say that I was on one of the islands on the Pacific coast of Mexico. It was part of the Marietas Islands. And there is another place that's very similar. So when I saw the blowhole, I was actually wondering if they had filmed it there. Because there is a natural on I think it's the eastern side of the island. When the tide comes in, there is a hole exactly like that. And so the tide comes in, it shoots up and out. And we took a boat out there once, and we actually got under the blowhole and had the water shoot out and all over us. And it was amazing. And so that actually happened. And I know that I looked it up, and that was done by a special effects crew. But there are natural formations like that. And if you are trying to give someone navigational cues, stuff like that would make sense to be a marker for treasure and things of that nature. So I said that no, it was probably not likely for that ever to be used. But another thing to also consider was how different the coastlines were in some places, to where they may have been hundreds of feet further out, and this stuff might have been like walkable at the time.
Yeah.
You just never know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I mean, it's not in this case because they do explain like later that it was hidden there for a purpose. But I don't know. I mean, there's like a clear explanation as to why that this treasure was hidden, where most of it you probably wouldn't have pirates. Well, I mean, this isn't even necessarily a pirate treasure, I would say, because it was
right.
It was
the Spanish crown's property.
Yeah,
that was lost at sea.
That was lost at sea. Yeah.
That's why you might say it is a Pyrite movie. It's fake. It's not really about pirates. Okay. All right. That's why this is a pirate-adjacent movie. I think for every two or three
treasure.
regular ones, we're going to try to do one like these where it's sort of... It's related, but not as on the nose as most of the other ones we will do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one, I mean, it does cover treasure, though, which is, what people would think of typically with pirates as treasure.
Yes.
This is not a pirate treasure, but it is sort of buried treasure, more like a sunk treasure.
Mm-hmm.
Sunken treasure.
Right.
I think this was my favorite underwater treasure movie. I don't know how many are out there, but this is probably my favorite.
Yeah, I don't know how many there would be. I do have one last clip that I'd like to look at before I go through some reviews that I found that were kind of funny. And this one I put in here specifically because I think this is potentially the first time that this has ever happened in a movie. In not that I don't know. This was when I watched this as like a teenager. I was like, "What the heck?" Like I just remember being like dumbfounded by the fact that this happened. And this isn't exactly the clip that I wanted. I kind of wanted the clip where Kate Hudson actually says the line in the cemetery, like right after this. But there is some good like exposition that goes on, and some good dialogue where they find like basically why that the stuff was buried where it was. Mm-hmm. So let's take a look at this clip.
I cannot but wonder who she was and how she came to die here, for the headstone reads simply, Aurelia, 1715.
Oh, shit.
Forsake her, I could not, and so it was here on this beautiful hilltop that I resolved to bury our own dead and begin work building a church.
It's in the cemetery.
It's in the cemetery.
It's in the cemetery. That's a National Treasure line if you've ever heard one.
Yes. It's so funny because it really is played for comedy.
Oh my goodness. He kicks the chair. Oh man. Okay, this has to be the first time that anyone has had sex in a church in a movie, right? Like, am I wrong in thinking that?
Okay, I've pulled up on IMDb. There's a keyword search, and I didn't know this existed, but it's like a search engine within IMDb that says sorted by popularity, most popular movies and TV shows tagged with the keyword, quote, sex-in-a-church. Number one on this list is Fool's Gold, 2008.
It's because,
Behind it is Detroit Rock City, which is sort of a teen comedy.
Okay.
And then every movie after that is essentially like a sexy thriller type movie from the 90s.
Dear
where
Lord.
it was meant to be like risque, I'm sure.
Yeah. if it even happens, like you never know on some of that search engine stuff.
Yes,
it's funny that
right.
Fool's Gold is the first
For some
thing.
reason, these movies have been connected to that phrase within IMDb.
Good grief!
I didn't know
just
this
remember-
existed. I'm going to use this search feature now a lot.
That's cool. That's cool. I just remember like that sticking out for some reason, and especially like right after this in the cemetery scene, she goes out there and he's like, "What's wrong?" or something like that, and she's like, "You mean other than the fact that we just had sex in a church?"
It's like a triple sin. That's what she says.
Yeah, it's funny, and then from there they find a book, which is like where you get some more like. I feel like that scene should have been sooner in the movie, and you cut out the Kevin Hart going back stuff.
They find that in the middle, and then there's maybe some other thing on the way in between the finale where
Maybe
they find
so.
it.
Yeah, because like essentially they find that, and then they go outside and they find the book that details like basically where the treasure is, and then from there it's like, okay, now we're going to actually find it, and it's like bam, 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 and then you're almost at the end of the movie. Whereas there's kind of some stuff in the middle there that maybe shouldn't have been in there at all, and you just like move some of this stuff up and maybe add something more interesting towards the end. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
interesting. It's got to be like the craziest thing. Who thought? Yeah, let's make a church on this small island.
Yeah,
and then let's have our main characters have sex in it.
Yeah, which it is played just for straight comedy. You know what I mean? It's not really like romantic or anything. It's like
no, they like read a book. She jumps on him.
Right. It's also funny because it implies on the joke before they basically started their honeymoon actually was them doing research in a Spanish library. So it essentially is implying that learning like Spanish history and archaeology turns them both on. It's kind of the gag in the
yeah. So I do have some reviews that I found that were somewhat funny. I read the one from Letterboxd earlier that was National Treasure, just add water. I have another one from Letterboxd as well. This one is from Grace. This is from 2023. And they said, I watched this movie for the first time when I was way too young. It was also the first time I saw boobs. My life was changed.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm so used to watching the TV version. There's a scene where like a girl flashes the camera, and I was like, what the hell?
Them. Yeah.
Because it's always edited out of TV. There's also 2 or 3 scenes that are edited out of TV, not because they're risque, but because it literally is like, this isn't funny. This has nothing to do with the movie. It's some of the scenes in the middle are usually not in the TV version.
Yeah. Interesting. You never know what you're missing when you're watching the TV version. In this case, boobs. So this review is from Rotten Tomatoes, 1.5 stars. And it says, I thought The Country Bears was bad, but this takes some beating. They thought this was worse than The Country Bears.
That's impossible.
Which, I mean, The Country Bears is not bad, but...
No, it's just weird. This movie isn't
but
that
this
weird.
Is significantly better than Country Bears.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Take, but okay.
Another one from Rotten Tomatoes. This one's from 2010. 2 stars. Boring. Predictable. I also hate Matthew McConaughey. MCONOHEY, or however you spell it.
Boring.
McConaughey.
Predictable. It's like, yeah, who could have predicted that in like the romantic comedy they find the treasure at the end and get back together?
Yep.
I really wanted one of them to die, and then they the treasure gets eaten by a walrus. Yeah. That's what makes a good movie is unpredictability, right?
Someone write that. Someone write that script.
That's a big like thing for me that bothers me. And I understand it is a legitimate criticism a lot of times.
I mean, but it's like, what did you expect? It's a rom-com.
Like,
so another one I have from Rotten Tomatoes, 5 stars. Kate and Matthew, so cute couple.
Is that all it says?
Yeah.
So cute couple. 5 stars.
Couple. Yep. That was from 2010. I have a couple from Amazon as well. This one's from David E. Baldwin. 4 stars. A Satisfying Confection. This was from 2008.
That's a good title.
So not too long after the movie came out. This is a film that defies criticism. It wasn't made to win awards. If memory serves, this flick was released around Valentine's Day to cash in on those taking their sweeties, or intended sweeties, to something lighthearted and romantic. There will be blood, just wouldn't cut it. In a nutshell, this is cinematic cotton candy, which is a phrase I now love and think I will say a lot. I saw this film about 2 days ago, and it's pretty much escaped my memory banks, as was intended. This could be characterized as a screwball action-adventure comedy, though it falls a little short of Grant Dunn or Powell Loy. That said, the teaming of Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson sets off kinetic sparks. They project both intelligence and sexual heat that is palpable. The presence of Donald Sutherland as a mega millionaire is always inviting. Sit back and enjoy the show and remain optimistic that McConaughey and Hudson will one day appear in a vehicle that has a little more meat to it.
It's a good review.
Yeah, it's decent. It's decent. Not bad at all.
What did he say? This movie defies... what is it?
This movie defies criticism.
Yeah.
It wasn't
There are
made
some
to win
movies that are
awards.
like that. There are some movies that are like that where it's like any argument you make for it holds no water because it's insane. And I'm glad that it exists in the world.
Enjoyable. Like, that's what movies are supposed to be for, is enjoyable. Like, you're supposed to enjoy watching them. They don't all have to be like so serious or so a masterpiece of cinema.
Right.
Like,
Because
you can make
they're not going to be.
Yeah, you can just make movies to, sit down and
and some movies, like, for example, this movie even, but Sinbad, from last week's episode, it's fun to talk about what works and what doesn't work in the movie.
Yeah.
But there are some movies like The Master of Disguise, which will one day somehow shoehorn into this podcast.
Probably not. Probably not.
He does, in the movie, he does do a parody of Quint from Jaws.
What does he say?
Oh, how did you hear? We need process. He just speaks gibberish, but he sounds like Quint when he's on the little rowboat. I've seen it about probably 125 times.
Okay.
Master of Disguise.
Maybe I need to rewatch.
Anyway, it's so stupid that any criticism.
Wait, he says that in Master of Disguise or Fool's Gold? I'm confused.
Master of Disguise.
Okay, that's why I'm confused.
Yeah.
Carry on.
I've moved on.
I haven't. I have another 5-star review from Amazon. It says, this is from Graham Swearingen. Overboard with treasure hunting? I'm sold. This is from September 25th, 2012. Okay, so this isn't some sort of cinematic art or big special effects extravaganza. Why people are reviewing this negatively because of the 2 stars makes no sense to me. Since when do people expect much from Matthew McConaughey or Kate Hudson? Kate was really good in Almost Famous, but other than that, I haven't been blown away by her or Matthew for that matter. In fact, I can't even think of him ever not playing some dolt. I think he says some dolt without his accent.
Yeah.
This movie harkens back to something like Overboard with its chemistry of 2 stars who would seem like an odd pair from different walks of life. While Matthew is no Kurt Russell, I think Kate is better than her mother ever was. So these two have pretty good chemistry together. And then you shoot this movie in the best parts of Australia with great actors like Ray Winstone and Kevin Hart and Donald Sutherland and make it an adventure film. Then you've got something really good. This movie is paced well, shot well, and it looks great on Blu-ray. Poor supplemental features. Yeah. Poor supplemental features, but I bought this for the movie, so I'm not too bummed about the lack of extras. If you like adventure films and video games, you'll probably like this. I'm a big fan of the video game series Uncharted. This movie reminds me of that series, only not as funny or dangerous, but this movie is still witty and adventurous. I like this movie a lot. Get it on sale, and then then if you don't like it, you won't feel like you got ripped off.
The golden approval of a movie is get it on sale.
Get it on sale.
I've described stuff like that to you though before, right? Where it's like, if it's on sale, get it.
If it's on sale,
not.
yeah. If not, don't worry about it. It's not that important. I do have one final review from Amazon. This one is from Shane, also a 5-star review, and it's titled "Treasure Hunting Was Pretty People," whatever that means. This is from 2022, and the review is: "Treasure hunting was pretty people. We'll watch any movie with these two actors and some old favorites like Donald Sutherland going after buried treasure."
I don't know why the typos are so funny to me. It's so stupid. You're not going to read back your review? Nope.
Yeah.
Send.
Treasure hunting was pretty people. Donald Sutherland going after buried treasure. Treadurd.
Mm-hmm. I do have to say, I did when I was typing, because I put notes in my phone when we were watching these. I did type McConaughey, but what I actually typed out was McConaughey. It actually has BAE, the word bay in it. It looked like a
McConaughey.
Yeah.
Look at that. You subconsciously were like, this is the most handsome he's ever looked at.
Yeah.
No, now he is McConaughey.
Which, yeah, if he was his age and he hit that rom-com peak today, they would have called him McConaughey.
Maybe that's the t-shirt. Maybe we make a t-shirt, McConaughey, and it's got his face on it. We sell that.
That might already exist somewhere. I don't know.
We can make our own.
Well, you want some pirate bingo?
McConaughey. Yeah, man. Let's hear it. Pirate bingo time.
As for pirate adjacent movies, I feel like most of them will be this way. There might be a few that aren't.
Yeah.
It's pretty low. But it does have some that are unusual or significant. A lot of the pirate talk obviously isn't in there, but what is in there is what do you think about this? There's no sword fight directly. Although there is a sword used in a fight.
That is true.
I think it counts. It uses a 17th century sword in an action scene.
But there's only so many.
Right.
So.
Sure. We're going to be stretching here anyway. So there is the marooned trope. Because Sebastian Wenger is marooned on the island after the ship runs aground. And he's only saved when a ship happens to come by the island and he's saved. No one in particular marooned him. It's because the ship crashed.
Yeah.
There are piles of gold treasure.
There are?
In the cave and at the end. Which I tried to look it up. I never was able to find out if all that stuff in the museum was real artifacts or if they just made it for the movie. Because I thought it would be cool if they just went to one of the Mel Fisher museums or something and just filmed stuff.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find that out.
Huh.
Booty.
Yeah.
Is in the movie.
Mm-hmm. In more ways than one.
Yes. I swore I remembered someone putting a knife in their teeth and doing something, but that did not happen for what I remember. I don't think it happened. Put it down in the comments if that happened.
I'm not sure.
There is an unnecessarily shirtless guy on the crew.
No. Here's what it is. McConaughey puts a gun between his teeth.
Okay, maybe. Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
And I wrote this down, although I don't even remember where it said, but someone does say the word pirate in this movie. Maybe someone describes Finn as a pirate, joking about it, but someone says it.
I have no idea. I'd have to rewatch the whole movie.
Oh, no, wait. Maybe it's when it's in the big exposition scene, I think, when they're talking about the dangers of the Caribbean, and they say one of the dangers is pirates.
Okay.
So that counts. They say the word pirate. Yeah. So that's one, two, three, four.
That's one more time that's pirates said than in Sinbad.
Sinbad. There's 6. It's got 6.
Cool.
So anyway, that's pirate bingo.
Adjacent tropey.
I don't think anyone got bingo this time.
No, dude, there was not enough. Not enough at all. All right, anything else before we get to ratings? Christian, did you have any tropes? No?
No. This one was just really entertaining. I found it kind of similar to the Goonies. Treasure-wise, how there's a treasure that ends up being at the very end of the journey, and it's like, oh, we can't access it now, but they could access it then. Now it makes so much more sense when no one's found it until us.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of treasure tropes at the end, but throughout most of the movie, it was like very realistic on how they search and lucky discoveries and stuff.
Cool. I do have, I guess before we do ratings, I do have a couple things. So originally Tom Cruise was going to play Finn.
What?
But he opted for a movie called Lions for Lambs instead. That would be a weird movie. Tom Cruise as Finn. That just would, I don't know. I don't feel like that would fit
McConaughey is
all
perfect
well
for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, this was not exciting enough to be a Tom Cruise. But
no,
hanging
the
off
action
of the
scenes would
plane
be
makes
insane.
So much more sense.
They
now.
would.
The what?
The hanging off of the plane makes so much more sense
Yeah.
now.
Because I think that to me that looked like it was somewhat real stunt. Was McConaughey hanging off of that plane?
I mean, probably. It looked real.
Yeah.
So apparently Finnegan is named after Huckleberry Finn, which McConaughey said was like one of his favorite characters growing up. So that was one reason why he...
Because he talks like him.
I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. He was like gung-ho about playing Finn, specifically because of that. That was in an article.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And then last fun fact I have is in this movie, Kevin Hart plays a rapper named Big Bunny, only to later voice a bunny named Snowball in The Secret Life of Pets.
Okay. Interesting. It's also funny that he was named Big Bunny predating the rapper Bad Bunny.
Big Bunny, all one word, but it's not.
Also, Big Chungus.
Sure.
Is a big bunny.
Don't know how that comes into play at all.
Because it's a big bunny.
It's
Bugs Bunny, but fat.
Okay. Let's get some ratings out.
Put an image up here.
So, our rating system, if you're unfamiliar, is called the Pieces of 8. We rate the movie in a general sense as to what we think of it as a movie, and also as a piratiness scale. And the scale is 0 to 8. Does anyone want to start us off with the ratings tonight? All right, I guess that's me. So my general rating, I actually really love this movie. I think I jokingly said it's going to go in my Letterboxd top 4. I don't know that that's actually going to happen. I do really enjoy this movie though. So my overall, like my general rating for this, I'm going to give a 7 out of 8. I thought about maybe even going higher than that. I'll hold off. 7 out of 8. Piratiness though, there's not a lot of piratey things that happen in this. I'm giving it a 2 out of 8 on piratiness. I didn't even think about it until we were talking about it a minute ago, but not even the treasure is a pirate treasure.
Mm-hmm.
So really, other than like finding a sword and some things that like, might be piratey, there's not a whole lot in this. So 2 out of 8. Christian.
Mine's very similar. I would give it a 3 out of piratiness. Not a lot to do with piracy, but I think it's a really good pirate adjacent movie. And if you just like the thrill of adventure that comes with pirate movies, this is one that would fit right in there.
Yeah. And
I would give it a solid 7 as well.
Heck yeah.
Okay. I would give it 2 out of 8 on the pirate scale.
Okay.
As expected from these. Overall quality, I would say 6 out of 8.
6 out of 8.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You're like, man, this is real mid.
I don't know why. It was because of the mid. When I watched it this time, I was like in the middle of the movie, like, I guess I would usually, when it was on TV, that's when I would go pee.
Close to the good part yet?
Yeah.
It's like, man, without the commercial breaks to break this up.
Because how long is it? I'm just curious.
I think it's like an hour and 50 something.
156.
Really? I'd cut it to an hour 30 and make this a perfect movie. I could re-edit it and make it.
I don't
amazing.
disagree with that. So I think if you took out that scene in the middle where he goes and reveals himself that he's alive, that would solve a lot of his problems to begin with. Because he gets the crap beat out of him, man.
Yeah.
Like, why would you go and like willingly get the crap beat out of you and almost shot? Because one of the guys dies. He gets shot and dies.
Yes.
Like, why would you even show up? Like, he thinks you're dead.
But yeah.
Just stay dead.
Yeah. I think
Crazy.
a re-edit of this movie would get it higher. But I'm leaning towards a 6 or even a 5.5, but a 6. Because I do.
Okay.
It's a perfect put on in an afternoon and halfway watch it, but watch it for the vibes and the music movie.
Yeah.
It's perfect for that.
Yeah. It's like I think you said The Goonies, which I'm sure we'll watch later on down the line.
It is similar vibes to that.
But
you
said The Goonies is a good like rainy day movie to like when it's rainy outside. You have nothing else to do. You sit back, watch The Goonies. This is really similar. Like this is a good rainy day movie in my opinion. All right. Well, last but not least, should we induct this into the Rated Aargh Pirate Cinematic Universe?
Whatever that means.
I went first on the rating, so I'll let you guys voice your opinions on this first.
No.
I say no.
I also say no.
But it's to be expected for this type of movie.
Yeah,
a pirate-adjacent film.
I don't know how many pirate-adjacent movies that we will induct, specifically because it's not really too much to do with pirates. But yeah. I think no is probably a good call on this. I mean, we didn't even put Sinbad in, and Sinbad is way piratier than this.
I know.
So, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I vote no as well. All right, any final things before we close this one out?
I do think about when he finds Finn floating on the cooler or that box, the group of like drunk college kids
before he gets flashed,
and he goes, the guy picks up a beer out of the cooler and goes, "Sacred nectar," and he throws it to him. I think about that all the time, like when I get a beer out of a cooler. Sacred nectar.
Sacred nectar.
All right, that's my last thing.
Oh my goodness. All right, well, it's almost time for us to take this ship to port. But before we do, we wanted to make sure you found our proverbial message in a bottle detailing next month's movie of choice. So coming August 10th.
Wait, what is next movie? Like, I don't even know this.
It's coming August 10th. We'll be taking a look at a movie that almost destroyed the pirate genre, Cutthroat Island.
Ah.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm interested.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
It'll be good. All right, well, we hope you enjoyed Fool's Gold as much as we did, and we can't wait to see where our next adventure takes us.